Alright guys, so we're starting completely from scratch. The only thing that I have plugged up is the audio going out of my module. So I have audio going out of the squid sample, out of the plonk, and out of the black stereo delay because that's where we're going to send our rings into. So first, let's go ahead and plug up our drum gates. So if we take a look at the back of the KeyStep Pro, we're going to see that it has 8 drum outputs, which means that each gate can control a specific drum module. I recently purchased the Squid Sample by LLM, which is a tiny drum machine, which is like perfect for what I was looking to do because I just need one drum module that will give me all the drums, and that does that. So basically the way this works is the first channel is my kick, then is the snare, then is the hat, another hat, and then other percussive sounds. So very straightforward. We're just gonna plug channel 1 into our output 1. I need some longer cables. I need to get like some of those little angled cables. And it's kind of like backwards, so they're gonna cross over, but that's okay. We're gonna do channel 2 into channel 2, etc., etc. Also keep in mind that you don't need a modular to use the KeyStep Pro. You could easily just use the MIDI out to control a drum machine and set it to the specific MIDI channel. But I think it's convenient having everything in the case, and that's kind of what I'm going for with this setup. Alright, so now that we have our drum plugged up and we have audio going into our mixer, we are going to be able to hear our drums, right? And that's it. It's only 8 drums. And what kit are we on? Let's find out. CR78. Let's go to our 808. So this is how it works. Channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. You get the idea. So the other thing that we can do with channel 1 is that we can use the voice 1 for it. But remember that it's either or. For this video, we're just going to be using it for drums, but another thing that you can do is you can switch between the drum sequence and the regular sequence. So like you can either have your drums running or you can have a sequence running. Alright, now that we have our drums plugged up, let's plug up one of our synth voices. So we are going to use rings and send it into the black stereo delay. So I'm going to do audio out of rings into the left of the delay, and then we're going to send pitch and trig out of the KeyStep into the rings. So we're going to need some longer cables for that. So remember, we're not using voice 1, we're going to go straight to voice 2. So I really like that it's labeled in the front, but then it's also labeled in the back, so we can see what we're doing no matter what angle you're in. Alright, so we're going to send the pitch out into the volt per octave, and we're going to send the gate into the strum. We're gonna leave the mod alone for now. Now we should be able to go to track 2 and hear our strum. Alright, so now we're gonna do the same thing with plonk. Get our KeyStep Pro, send pitch into plonk, and our gate into plonk. And let's also go ahead and send the velocity into our velocity input. So that's going to give us velocity over plonk. So let me show you without velocity. So rings doesn't have velocity. It means that no matter how hard we press, it doesn't make a difference on the volume. With plonk, like it gets louder the more we press it. And the last thing that I have set up on track 4, since I don't have any more voices in my Eurorack system, is I have track 4 going into my montage out of the MIDI output. So I really thought about like, what would I do if I would perform with this? And obviously I'm not going to drag around my giant montage. So I was thinking of picking up one of those little Roland Boutique, you know, maybe the JU6 or whatever, to be able to do chords like on that 4th track. But I don't really need to do that right now because I can use the montage and I'm not going anywhere because nobody's going anywhere right now. So yeah, so I'm not really buying anything right now. And the montage is working fantastic. Being able to have all that polyphony is not something you can get out of a Eurorack at this moment. So let's go ahead and record our drums. Let's turn on our metronome To do that, we're gonna press Shift metronome. We can control the volume of the metronome. Turn that down a bit. So that is definitely quantized because I messed up and it fixed it. So we can turn quantize off. If you press Shift, if it's lit, if it's red, it is quantized. If not, it's not. But you can also quantize after the fact. Okay, let's leave it quantized. Now we can go ahead and turn our metronome off. Let's go ahead and record that. So we have 64 steps, and you can choose the length of each step by pressing the last step. If you want it to be 32, 48, 64, and then we can also choose the time division. So even though it's 64 steps, we can use the time division to expand the pattern and kind of like cheat to get more steps. That's something I like to do because in my brain I write in 8 bars, if that makes any sense. So 4 bars just sometimes isn't enough, and I really take advantage of the clock divisions. All right, so let's leave it simple for now. We're gonna just do 64 steps. I have a count in, so you can set up the count in the utility menu by going into the metronome. So you can have it to 0 bars, 1 or 2 bars, and to activate the metronome needs to be on, like the actual click. Because I was like, why am I not getting a count in even though I have it set up? And it's because the metronome needs to be on. So just a heads up. Metronome on, here we go. You see I missed that first step, so that's one of the things that I was talking to you about in my last video. That's like one of the cons. I'm sure it has something to do with a software update. Hopefully they'll fix that soon, but it always misses that first step most of the time. So let's just let that play and we'll add that first step later. Alright, let's go ahead and record our track 2. We're going to change the last step to 64, and here we go. Since our metronome isn't on, we don't have a count in, so let's turn that back on. Again, it missed that first step. Alright. Let's figure out what we're going to do on track 3. So now you can see what I was talking about that I think in 8 bars. So let me show you how to take advantage of the clock divisions. We're going to change our last step to 64, press Shift, and we're going to switch our clock division to 8. Now it's going to move slower. So we can record. Let's do it. clock division is that sometimes it doesn't get all the note. Like it won't get the note right before it or right after it. So that's kind of like a sacrifice. A machine that used to be really good at not stealing notes was the OPZ. I'm hoping that they can bring that to this, but not a lot of machines that have clock divisions are able to handle note precision. It's also very quantized, I wonder. Okay, so the quantized seems to be destructive, which means that once it's quantized, it can't be unquantized. Alright, so now that we have our pattern set, we can start messing with Eurorack, adding effects, doing all that fun stuff. So let's do it. One last thing I want to do actually is I want to add clouds into the mix. So we're going to go out of rings into clouds and then out of clouds into the Erica delay. Here we go. Now we can start messing with different drum patterns. So let's go ahead and record a different drum pattern. Another cool thing that we can do is that we can change the octave, semitones. There's a lot of options. We can do random notes, random octave off all of our tracks. So let's do that with our plonk. The reason that you heard those notes that weren't in the scale is because the range on your rack modules isn't that far off to the right or to the left. It's eventually going to stop giving us that note. So that's what happened there. Try it with rings. Another thing that I really like about rings, it's the polyphonic mode. So even though we cannot record multiple notes into the sequence, we can play over our sequence. So for example, this is playing right now in our sequence with rings. Let's mute everything just so we can hear. I can play on top of that. let's turn down some of these effects. You can hear what I'm talking about over here. Now all the notes are the same because we went too high on the octave. So let's turn that down. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned something today. If you did and you like what I do, consider checking out my Patreon. If you guys want to support this channel in any way, you can do so by like buying my sample packs or my shirts that I designed. This is not my shirt. This is actually by Yamaha, but this is a dope shirt. You'll find some other dope shirts on my website. Let me know below what kind of videos you guys would like to see and I'll try my best to make that happen. Also, all the music that I'm making in these little videos, that's going to be exclusive Patreon downloads. So do it if you can do it. If not, no worries. I still appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching and I will catch you in the next one.